let's go ahead and take a look at just give an example of how this relates to where's my spreadsheets? All right. So here's my spreadsheets, and this is how we are going to, all right, there we go. All right, so here's a spreadsheet. You could think of this as an object. Every sheet, this whole sheet could be an object. So we might label this whole spreadsheet, if we give it a title instead of book 1, or you see how you have these little tabs down here, and each one's going to be a little different table. So if this is the, we'll call it the contact object. Okay, so that would actually need to be a title. But if this is the contact object, then the contact is going to have some different fields. So the fields will go across the top, like first name, last name, address. We'll keep it simple, and maybe phone number. All right, so that would be our fields. We got 4 fields on the contact object, and one of the ones that we just created was loan amount in our Salesforce. So let's just throw that in there too. All right, so each one of these rows would be a record. So this first one would just be the names of our fields, and then every row after that would be our records. So we could say Charles Brady. My address is 20 Teal Court, South Carolina, United States, or something like that. We'll just keep it short. 20 Teal Court, South Carolina. My phone number is 202-0986. Let's say I have a loan for $10,000. All right, so now there could be, that's my record, that's me. The next one, let's say this is John Snow. Whoops. All right, so first name would just be John. Let's say that one's Snow. His address is 109 Winterfell Avenue, Westeros, or something like that. Let's say his phone number is 599-1790. And maybe Jon Snow has a loan amount for $30,000. So that's 2 records. We got my record, which is this row, and Jon Snow's record. And we could have a ton more, but these would all be contacts. Everything in this spreadsheet would be contacts. So now, let's say we started another sheet down here. So this is sheet 1, and I wonder if we can rename this. So we could rename this contacts. So maybe we want to start another sheet, and this would be a whole nother object because it's a whole nother spreadsheet. So this one could be accounts. So we could have the account name. We could have the salary, the yearly salary, or sorry, annual income. So usually this would be businesses, and there could be person accounts too, where every person has their own account, so you wouldn't really need contacts. But most companies you deal with are going to have accounts, and then they're going to have contacts underneath of it. So let's keep it simple and just stick with 2 fields. So we could do an address one too. So account name could be, let's say the Westeros account. And maybe the annual income is $1 million. 123, and the address is, I don't know. It's a bad example. Somewhere in Florida. Or we'll say this. Instead of address, we'll say billing state. We'll say it is in Florida. Now we can have another account called the Brady account, which would be my family. Let's add another contact over here on our other spreadsheet. Let's say we have another Brady. So let's say there's a Jack Brady. And let's say that's my dad and we live at the same place. And I'll give him a phone number of, let's say his loan amount is $20,000. So to show you a little bit of a relationship, we're going to go ahead and add our annual income here. So let's say I make $30,000 a year. Maybe my dad is balling and he makes $1 million a year. And maybe Jon Snow makes $30,000 a year too. Alright, so under the Brady account over here, let's rename this accounts. And so remember, these are like digital folders and we're putting records inside of each one. Every line we enter is a record. So let's call this accounts. So we got our contacts and we got our accounts. So the Brady account, the annual income. So because there's multiple accounts, there's multiple contacts that are on this Brady account, there's me and my dad, we want to add our annual incomes together. So we want to be under this overarching account, the Brady account. So we could create, because Salesforce is a relational database, and we can't do this in Excel right here because it's not a relational database. We can't relate this contact spreadsheet to this accounts one because they're completely different things. So I would have to manually go in here and say, okay, so $30,000 plus $1 million equals $1,030,000, and I would have to manually enter it in here. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So now there is that. And then this billing state would be South Carolina. Okay, so $1,030,000. But in Salesforce, we can automate that. We can create some type of formula field or relationship field that says, hey, everybody that's under this overarching account, add up their annual incomes and put it under the account's annual income right here. All right, so that's enough of relational databases, enough of that spreadsheet stuff. Let's get back to this trail. So all of the above, manual processes, email, spreadsheets, local directories. The use cases for finance on the platform are, let's just go back up here into the reading, finance, here we go. Customize the platform for these use cases, budget management, contract management, pricing. So budget management, pricing, contract management. And check the challenge. Great job. Okay, so then let's just go ahead on to the next unit. So now you can see, if we went all the way back to trails, you can see on this admin beginner trail that we're 7% of the way done now, and we've completed these two little classes. Now let's go ahead on to understand the Salesforce architecture. So the learning objectives in this one says after completing this unit, you'll be able to define key terms related to Salesforce architecture, find information related to trust, explain at least one use case for Salesforce APIs. So go ahead and do this reading. This is important. There'll definitely be questions on the exam about this. It'll talk about the multi-tenant cloud and what is trust. Trust is just the security of your data. It's located somewhere else, so you're relying on somebody else to keep your data secure. So the way Salesforce works and the way the cloud works, if you're not familiar with it, is they have these giant computers. They're actually physical things, and they're connected to the internet, but they just store your data, massive amounts of data. So they got these big computers over here storing everybody that uses Salesforce's data, and that's an actual thing. It's like a server warehouse. So if you actually Google it, you can see server room. These are actual things. They're these big computers. They might not look exactly like this, but servers are these big computers. Salesforce probably has something like this somewhere, a server warehouse room type thing. And these are all just computers connected to the internet that store your data. And they're really fast at feeding your data back through the internet to your computer. So anyways, understanding the trust is just saying your data is secure. That's what the trust is. The metadata, read about that. That's important. The API is, I'm trying to figure out a great way to explain this, but just read it. It's like a connection. It's like a data connection. It allows you to access data, basically. It's saying your data is open. If you have the API, if you are allowed that API connection, then you can use it to access that data and use it in other places. That'll make more sense if you go ahead and read it. All right, so we'll go back down here to the challenge. Our trusted multi-tenant cloud means you get upgrades 3 times a year. So Salesforce upgrades 3 times a year. They upgrade in like winter, summer, and spring or something. So that's true. No software to install is true. You don't have to have a company come to your business and set up computers or anything. It's all on the internet, so all you have to do is have a computer with an internet connection, and you have access to all their secure computers that are already set up somewhere else. So that's the beauty of the cloud, is that you don't have to pay for someone to come set your stuff up, and every time it breaks, you gotta come have them fix it. Salesforce does all that for you. And this one has to be true, but let's just go ahead and read it. The benefits of the same core set of features for all customers. Yes. All right. So that one's all of the above. The Salesforce API is like a contract between 2 pieces of software. That is true. It's like you're allowed access to that data. Okay. Not available for certain technologies such as wearables. Not true. The exact same thing as an API name. Not true. So this API name, in the background of Salesforce, your field label, it might say something like name. So if we go here and see contact name right here, the account name is going to have an account name too. But if we go to accounts, okay, never mind. I thought it was just going to say name. Opportunity name, account name. So here's a better idea. We could have stage on multiple. All right, let's rewind, do a different example. We could have contacts, and we could have this name field on contacts, but on people, we could have the same thing. Instead of full name, we could just have name. But the API name has to be unique, so we're accessing the right bit of data. Don't know if that makes total sense right now, but I think it'll make more sense as we go along. So the Salesforce API is not the exact same thing as the API name. So the API name for the contact name field might be contact.name. So you have to have some way to distinguish between the contact name, and this people name field. If that just said regular name. Okay, so hopefully I didn't confuse you there. Phone number is another good one. You could have a phone number for people, and then if you came over here to account, you also have phone number. This is a better example actually. So